Hello, everyone, and welcome to Unfuck Your Mind. I'm your host, Zach Lyotis. In today's podcast, I have Vanessa Ellen. But after walking her own path of healing from childhood trauma that led to depression and addiction, Vanessa is now a medicine woman, devotional singing, and wellness coach, helping others find their own heart connection and walk the path home to joy and inner peace. Please help me welcome Vanessa to the podcast. Hello, darling. How are you?
Hello. I love the name of your show. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
It's true, though. You really have to unscrew your nougat to rewire it back to something more empowering.
Oh my gosh.
It came to me.
So true.
When I was going through that, right? Just like we were talking before the show.
It's so true. And I love the language. I love the way, oh, I'm so spiritual and I must be all nice and delicate. But sometimes I do like to say the word fuck.
And there's nothing wrong with that. I find those that swear actually have more compassion in their heart.
Yeah, real. It's keeping it real.
It's exactly what it is. I want to get back to your bio here because as I was saying it, I start getting goosebumps all over my body. And I'm having goosebumps right now. So I know Spirit's coming on really strong. And it's such a beautiful journey. We met in Panama. And wow, when I met you, I feel like you're a whole different person. Yes, you've grown and evolved. But this is just, my heart is singing. My heart is singing. And I know that your passion is in Cretan music right now and really opening up your throat chakra and standing in your power, speaking your voice and helping those on that path. So let's bring us back to that journey where you found Cretan music for your healing and your beginnings to this beautiful realm that you're in right now.
Yeah, super interesting. So yeah, we met in Panama and I was serving Cambo at the time. I was Cambo practitioner, and such a beautiful medicine in its own right. Just helped me peel back the layers. And you have to sing as you serve Cambo to help others through. So it's kind of like I had such issues around my voice, around singing, around, so much, I guess, trauma and feelings of not being good enough. But when it comes down to you need to make noise to help somebody else, it helped pull out those blocks and just do it. So I am so grateful to Cambo for this. And my journey really began when I left Costa Rica and I went to Sydney and I started hanging out with some Hare Krishnas. And good vibes, good energy. And I was singing the mantra one day and I just felt like Krishna consciousness, Krishna energy just entered my heart, and I felt my heart grow. And it was love. I felt this beautiful radiance of love, like unselfish, pure love inside me. And then it started singing through me as I sang the mantra. And then I started crying with joy, like tears of this joy, and and I think that was like my kind of moment where I started to understand the power of kirtan and the power of mantras, that they aren't just songs, they're energy. And my path really began exploring deeper into that. And I came back to London, where I met an amazing teacher, Nikki Slade, and my friend Mark Wazida, and we started working on mantras, singing mantra, and my path started moving towards music as medicine. And I think I'd been on the musical path and the path of sound prior to this, but this was where the kirtan aspect really hit home, and it was like ding, sparks of light, angels singing, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And it was in the summer last year, and I just really, it came to me, you need to make a choice now of where you're going to focus your energy. And so I said goodbye to the Cambo spirit, and I cried and let go with love, and really was, dedicated that this was going to be my path, kirtan, bhakti, and spreading love and devotion through sound and music.
That is so beautiful, because I really enjoy Cambo. Like, that's one medicine that everyone says, what is your favorite medicine out there? And I'm like, Cambo, hands down there. I'm like, it's so patient, it's so loving, but it seems so aggressive to me, but yet so patient, you know? It's like the weirdest feeling. So yeah, you must close one door for many more to open. And, you know, it's the death of one in order for the light for the other. Could you explain to people what Kambo is? Because people may not know what Kambo is.
Oh my goodness, Kambo is, like you said, it's an incredible, incredible medicine. It comes from a frog from the Amazon rainforest. It's the Phylomedusa bicolor, so it's the giant monkey tree frog. And how it works, you burn the skin, actually. You burn the top layer of skin, and then you put the Kambo on, and it goes into the lymphatic system. So it works on two ways. It really works on a three-dimensional level of physical body by going in with, it has all these little peptides and receptors, collects all the toxins, brings it to your tummy, and you vomit, shit, pee, sweat, cry, purge. You just purge it all out. But it also works on the metaphysical, energetic level of realigning the chakras, just really getting in there and getting to your stories, bringing things forefront into your mind and allowing you to process, to peel away like layers of trauma, drama, and kind of shows you how to work with yourself if you really tap into it on a spiritual, metaphysical level. He gets the job done. Like, it's so fast and furious, just in there, no messing. I think this is why I like him, because I'm an extremist, and he was just like bang, bang, bang.
I recall laying on your floor and going, Vanessa, I don't know if I'm gonna shit or puke. One or the other is gonna come out. But you know what? It was your singing that really did save me, and the breath. So I always found your voice to be very soothing. And it's interesting because you didn't feel like you had your voice at that time. And I believed in my heart that if it wasn't for the instruments that you were playing and you're singing and the mantras and stuff like that, I probably wouldn't have gone through it, because even in Campbell, we could get in our heads, even though we have 1,000 different things going on. Like, you're laying there, you feel like you're dying, you're wondering if you did the right thing. What end is it coming out of? Then you're telling yourself, focus on your breath. But it's that voice that, like, it was so soothing, and that's something that I was so grateful for because of that. But it's interesting how you saw yourself and how I saw you through that, that medicine woman.
Yeah, it's an interesting path. I mean, the whole thing, because it's about, when we really, drop into wanting to change and transformation, there is so much letting go, so much egoic death that has to take place, and so much surrender. It's all about, surrendering to spirit. And really where I find myself now is knowing that it's not so much me singing, it's spirit singing through me, and I have to just get out of the way and allow this process to happen and stop second guessing or trying to micromanage. It's like micromanaging God. It's the most ridiculous thing ever, but the little human ego is like, I got it, I can do this, rather than just being
Isn't that so true? And we question that. Is this me, or is this something else? Is this in so many different ways? But I want to go back to what brought you even to Campbell, because we know what brought you to Cretan music, and now you're helping people through their voice, and this is so powerful. We're going to talk about that. But what brought you to Campbell? Because that's what led you really to where you are today.
Yeah, it actually goes a little bit further back. I just had, the standard life. I worked in design and advertising and music press, and I wasn't really spiritual. I was just, living this general life that society dictates, and and I just found myself empty and depressed. I literally come out of a relationship that wasn't working. I was heading towards 40, and I was just like, wow, is this it? Is this life? And I was just like, I had the house, the car, the rock and roll lifestyle, but I was just, it was all so fake. Like, I'd find myself, at a fabulous party surrounded by people, you know, wearing the outfit, but just inside I felt so dead, so empty. And I, you know, I spent a lot of time, I'd just be sat outside like and yeah, there's like depression kind of took hold, and I was quite suicidal. And it was the night I kind of sat with a razor blade deciding whether to stay or go. But I think I really called out, and I didn't understand at the time, but I see now, you know, I really called spirit in. I was saying I didn't want to die. I really didn't. I wanted to live, but I just didn't know. I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to be empty. I wanted something to live for. And spirit definitely heard that call and responded. And lots of wonderful things started to unfold. And I was kind of oblivious, but I look back now and actually laugh. And like I went to Africa, and this trip just landed and things started to move. Then I went to India and I learned to meditate, and you know, things were shifting slowly, and then I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening.
Wow, those are amazing. I love it.
It was something else. I went because I was listening to Russell Brand's book, and he was like, yeah, Kundalini yoga, it's like the crack cocaine of yoga. I was like, awesome. Sounds amazing. Count me in. I'm going.
You know, we're soul sisters when that really goes down. It's like, yeah, get it out. Let's do this. But it's true. It's true. And it's so interesting because, you know, a lot of people that I've interviewed had gone through depression and suicidal thoughts and panic and stuff like that. And as you probably know, I've been down that road. I talk about depression all the time because it is on the rise. And I'm thinking, like, back what you said, here I was with a razor in my hand. I really didn't want to die, but I really didn't want to live this way. And you had this awakening moment. So look at, this is what I try to tell people. And I'm sure you try to tell people the same thing too. Even in your darkness, there's light that shines. And it's like, okay, what are the next steps? So what'd you do after that other than all these beautiful things? What were like some of your beginning steps to really find who the authentic Vanessa is? Because that's what I find people are so confused at.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a really good one, because my live broadcast, I was like, let's go back to the basics. And yeah, so this would be, I guess, around 5 years ago, when like my first like steps of change. It started with affirmations. Really was like, I think Louise Hay, I heard of her, and started like, what's this affirmation? And then I read Ram Dass, Be Here Now, and it made no sense to me. I'm like, what? Like, I just did not know you could control your thoughts. I just thought they were random things that happened. They controlled you. So this whole concept was like, huh?
I love this. True though. When it happens, you're like, what the fuck is going on right now? Like, am I really losing my mind?
I did actually, further down the line after the Kundalini Awaken, I thought I'd had a psychotic break. I doubted my sanity for a good while. And interestingly enough, my teacher who I mentioned, Nikki Slade, when I read her biography, she'd had an awakening in the 80s and was sectioned for it, because you know, the Western culture does not know how to deal with, I guess what you would call it is a spiritual awakening, and transcending beyond the parameters of the old reality of normality to actually everything's connected. We are one, and all of nature and all of the world is in constant communication. But you know, the old paradigm is like, what, you talk to trees? You must be insane.
Yeah. I hug trees. I've kissed trees, and people look at you. It's interesting that you're saying that. And it's true. You really do think that you're going kind of on the 90 path. So what would you tell your past self now, where you are today? Like, you know, what is some wisdom that you would tell that inner child?
Oh my goodness, it's funny you mention this, because this is a meditation I love to do, and it's where you sit down and you go back in your mind and you find the old versions of yourself when you're going through a traumatic situation, and you have a conversation with yourself. So it's like actually going back and supporting you in these moments. And so I have actually done this. I've gone back and I went back to myself in the bathroom that night when I was sat with the razor blade, and I whispered in my ear, it's all going to be okay. You're going to go on the most magical, wonderful journey. It might seem scary, but just hold on, stay strong, because amazing, wonderful things are waiting for you. And yeah, that's kind of, I've done it for lots of situations through my whole timeline. And literally the other day, I was doing this again. I was doing some inner child work. And I just had this memory of times when I was a child and I was scared and alone and feeling this presence, you know, like a guardian angel. Then I suddenly was like, oh, it was me. It was me all along.
Yeah. Interesting. It's interesting when we make these discoveries. We don't realize how much our inner child holds on to and the journeys and the suffering that it's been through. But when you look at it and realize that we never understood as a child what was happening, especially, you know, in the 70s when I was born, and I tell my parents, oh, there's a blue man floating in the air. And they're like, what is this chick talking about? You know, my invisible friend, Jessica, I'll never forget her, Jessica. And I made my parents go back home one day because I forgot to bring Jessica out with us. And I was screaming, no, we have to get Jessica. So imagine, you know, back in the 70s was a whole different ballgame. The 80s, different ballgame. There's such a spiritual awakening right now. How do you feel about the spiritual revolution that we're going through right now?
Wow, I think it is, well, just incredible times to incarnate on this planet. You know, we definitely came here for a reason, and to hold the light, to do this work. And this has been one of the most beautiful realizations and gifts after going through, like, I've been on this adventure for 5 years, I would say, from being completely oblivious to understanding the true nature of myself and then opening to that. Mm-hmm. And throughout this journey, realizing that everything I've been through is a gift, and everything is for where I teach from now, and just to be part of this and to bear witness. Like, it was really interesting. I was assisting with an ayahuasca ceremony a few weeks ago, and I haven't really been doing too much work with medicines like ayahuasca and those things for a while, but I started, I guess, about 4 years ago, you know, holding ceremonies, sitting in circles, and I've been in like hundreds of ceremonies. Mm-hmm. But listening to the sharing circle at this ceremony, I mean, most of the people were new. They were first time for drinking, but they had language to talk about their experience. You know, they were talking about purging. They knew what that meant. They were talking about processing. They were talking about, you know, their inner work. And I just kind of sat and thought, wow, how far we've moved in like 4 short years from listening to people, you know, just talking about, oh, the things are moving. And it was very like just a psychedelic experience, and not having the language to know what the inner workings, you know, what the real deeper healing meaning of the plants and the medicine is. To now it's more like, it seems like common knowledge. People know that we are in ascension, they know that we are in evolution, and that they want to be part of it. So they're coming to find their truth, you know, to find, you know, what it is to be human, you know, what is this planet, what are we doing, and what is my purpose. And that's the beautiful thing, because it's like before we were blind, but now we can see. And as a collective, we've gone from flat earth to round earth to it's quantum, and now there's actually no earth.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
It's incredible times we are witnessing.
So 2019, everyone talks about, you know, it's going to be the best year, like everything's going to change. And, you know, I sat back New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. It was mostly the whole month of December. And you know, Spirit says, it's just a number. And I'm like, oh, I know. I said, but we sometimes need that number. It's like, you know, we need Mondays to start a diet. It's like, I'll start on Monday. Well, why not right now? You know?
Yeah.
What do you feel in your heart of hearts is the biggest transformation that's going to happen in 2019 for yourself and for the collective?
For myself personally, I feel like I've transcended out of deeper or heavy healing, and more into being, like being able to be more in my service. And you know, like if you want to put it as like a scale, you know, you start here and it's really like in the, you know, the asleep and just awaken to the fact that the world might not be what you thought it was, and then you sort of progress along this scale. And when you get to here, this is when you're crazy, because you haven't dropped into, like, I guess, the fourth dimensional consciousness reality, and you're still a little bit like, no, there isn't spirit or energy, that's all hokey pokey. And you know, you waver. Then eventually you literally step out of that pond. If you like, go back to frogs, you stop being a tadpole, you turn into the frog, and you're living in oxygen, and so you're there. And but then you realize, you know, you have to go through the embodiment process. It's like you've had enlightenment, you know your truth. And I think a lot of people think that's the end of the journey. It's like, aha, I am God. Amazing. But then it's about the embodiment. And that's like the next part. And it's kind of a hard walk home, because you're not going to be floating around in the highest chakras. It's about working, you know, through the shadow work, really, and any trauma that needs to be released, and getting in your body, getting grounded, and being the light in the three-dimensional worlds. And I really feel maybe the last 2 years has really been about that for me. And it's been hard. Like, I'm not even gonna pretend it hasn't been. It's been super hard. It's been quite painful. But now I feel like, because I've gone through that process, that I feel grounded, I feel embodied, and like, let's do it. Let's shine. Let's go. And definitely a lot of my sisters and brothers have been doing the same process, and we're all sort of connecting, and it's time to shine. It's time to be seen, like we're doing this podcast now. Time to be in the world and just be.
Yeah, just be. And I love that you said that people get in, like, not in their heads, but get into the spiritual realm and want to stay in that energy frequency, but they have to really land and plant themselves to work through the pain and suffering. I was those people that for probably, I think, 2 to 3 years, I stayed in that place because it was a beautiful place. It was a place that was blissful. There was love there. And it didn't matter what was going on in the world, because I felt like I was high 24/7. I'm not even talking about anything like substance stuff, but it was just that energetic frequency of just being so buzzed out. And I've had a lot of people say to me, I love being up here. And I'm like, no, but you have to come down, because you got to face the shit in order for you to be there all the time.
Well, this is it. This is like the spiritual bypassing. I actually wrote a blog about, this is the thing with the medicine world. There's a lot, it's like, when are you healed? And I had this amazing, it was in Panama actually, with this peyote shaman, this old guy, and he was like, and he said to me the expression, I am the medicine, I don't take medicine because I am the medicine. And that just, I was like, what? It just planted this seed, because I never thought, there'd be a time when you don't take medicine or you're done with the medicine. It's like, you know, because I was on that time thinking I was going to, you know, be serving ayahuasca, and that was my path. And and it really stirred a seed within me of when are we actually healed, when are we embodied. And it's about, you know, bypassing. And then I like looking into the nature of addiction and what that is. You know, it's about not being present with yourself, not being present with the moment. So and if there's, you know, too much pain or trauma within the body, you don't want to be present with it, so you distract yourself. And that can just be through spiritual highs, it can be through anything, but it's being able to just be in the body, in the moment, and as everything is, because, you know, it's not always high. It's the resting place is just neutral. And it's been okay with the neutral, that we're not being stimulated. You know, you don't always have to be constantly in a place of stimulation. We can just be in stillness. I hope that makes sense.
Totally. It totally makes sense. And I kept on hearing Spirit say addiction. I'm like, what is he talking about? And then when you start speaking about addiction, I looked over at the notes. I'm like, oh yeah, she went through addiction as well. And I think we all go through addiction. Could you bring us back to that place? Because I know there's a lot of people that are maybe taking some sort of substance and stuff like that and want to get off. But bring us back to the addiction, and what were you running away from other than yourself?
Obviously. Yeah, the addiction has been an interesting thing, because I guess in the beginning, like most people, you think addict, you think of some smackhead, just all broken, darrow, with needles sticking out of their arm. And you kind of dismiss it as not being you. But when you really look at addiction and what that is, it was what I was saying, it's about not being present with your life. Mm-hmm. And so it could be so many things, from alcohol, drugs, your phone, technology, eating, gambling, sex. Yeah. It's just sort of like anything really that's distracting. And what it is, it's filling this emptiness, this longing for connection, this longing for feeling full, like fullness, and avoiding that. And so yeah, what happened for me personally was not last August, the August before. Like, I was on the medicine path, serving medicine, working with medicine and spirit, and spirit just said to me, "You're done."
So beautiful.
Yeah, and I was like, "Oh, what?" And it was like, you that's it. You don't need to drink. You don't need to work. Take medicine anymore. We've given you everything you need. Now, be, like, embody and be. And it was really like challenging, I think, was the main thing. And that in itself was this whole process of learning to be with myself, to not have any tools to distract. And that really led me into discovering the nature of addiction. And I realized, like, just one instance, like my parents divorced when I was 8, and it was a very ugly divorce, and there was lots of pain and things going. And I used to watch movies. Me and my brother would just watch movies, like 3 or 4 movies back to back in a row. And so that was my first, and I realized that was the development of my addictive nature, just wanting to distract myself, to not be present with what was happening. So I would distract my mind, and just really got into doing that. And I remember when I went to an AA meeting, and I was in Sydney, and I was, so much like, I don't need to be here. Like, why would I go? But then I was reflecting on my old party lifestyle, and it's so normalized, in Western culture, beer ads, this, you finish work on a Friday, you go out, you drink, and you go out for dinner, you drink, it's just so normal. And drugs are really normal. I'm a child of the 90s, the rave generation, it was everywhere, and it still is. I mean, there's cocaine in the tap water in England.
Yeah, I think cocaine's everywhere these days. I get it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's so prevalent, and it's so normalized that, how do you even know when you have a problem, when it's so normal and everybody else does it? So things I started to sort of like question about it. So I was like, I'll just go. And it was awful, because it made me feel like a scumbag, like all this shame that came up, the thought that I'm actually going to walk into an AA meeting. And I remember, like, I went in, I looked at the boards, and it was just like reading the 12 steps, do you feel so it's like, you're powerless. And I'm like, I'm not powerless. Like, I've never been powerless over drugs or alcohol. So I was like, yeah, this isn't for me. So I just sat there out of politeness. And then the meeting started, and everybody started talking about food. And I was just like, huh? And they were just talking about, how like binge eating, and then maybe like purging. And I kind of just shrank down in my seat and was like, oh yeah, I totally feel this. I've had issues with food since I was a teenager, and I've done that. Like, someone was saying, like, sometimes they would just get in the car after the supermarket and rip open a packet of biscuits and go, and then just be like, what am I, like uncontrollably stuffing it down. And it's like, and it's nothing to do with the food. It's a control thing. It's when you feel like you have no control, or you feel like you're free falling. It's a way of like stabilizing by just stuffing your face.
Yes, literally.
Literally. And so that for me was fascinating. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna hang out here and actually listen and start to explore that it's nothing to do with drugs and it's nothing to do with alcohol. It's actually to do with how you show up for life and how you process your own emotions and how you can feel in control or stabilize. And it just really sparked this whole new level of healing and understanding for me. And then like how to navigate through it, because I recognize, you know, we all have a nature and we have a need for things. And so like a need for ritual, a need for ways to control the mind. So then it became the importance of routine and the importance of making good habits, because I'm a creature of habit.
It's so funny that you say that, because Spirit said they gave me 2 questions right now. They said, ask her what her daily habits are, was one question. So I'm going to conquer that one after. But the first one I wanted to say, because the ego plays such a huge role. And if you listen to your ego, you would have walked out of that AA meeting, really, at the end of the day.
Totally. But luckily I've learned to humble myself and realize that I'm just a little imperfect being muddling my way through life.
And that's what I always say. Like, I always tell people, you know, people always say like, it's the ego. And I'm like, listen, I'm best friends with my ego because it's my greatest teacher, you know? And I'll never forget, I was reading Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. And I can't remember what chapter it was on, but I was like, I don't have that issue. And I just tossed the book to the side and I didn't read it, right? Because I don't have that issue.
I'm sure I've done that.
So here I was, and I was heading to the Dominican Republic for a week of R&R, and somebody said to me, grab the Eckhart Tolle book. And I was just like, why? And they said, read from the part you left off. And so I listened to Spirit, and here I was reading this chapter, and I thought, oh shit, I had that issue shining brighter than a star. I just wasn't ready to face it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the ego does, is like, it just doesn't allow you to face, you know, the crap that you're going through, even though it shows you all this, I found, right?
Mm-hmm.
And your spirit's guiding you. I was like, hey, who do you want to play games with? So it's kind of interesting that you said that. In what other situations do you feel your ego may have tried to stop you in your tracks?
Do you know, it's interesting. I think the thing that rescued me was medicine work, like working with ayahuasca and peyote, you know, because when you go in with this clear intention to sort your shit out, it's kind of like, it's this surrender, like just surrender. Like, I know my ego is going to come up, but I've already walked through the pits of my own hell and seen like my darkest dark. So it's like, my ego is not going to win now, you know. I'm not going to fight for my own honor when I realize it's just all bullshit. It's just, you know, my full desire is to be aligned to my heart and aligned to love. And so I have this beautiful benchmark to work from. So like my ego rears up. It did it this morning, actually. Something triggered me, and weirdly I seem to get into a little Cockney character when I get angry. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And it rose up and I reacted and I was all defensive. And then, you know, then I do my thing of just dropping back into my heart and just asking, what's the truth? What's the loving truth of what's really happening? And then often realize that it's silly, because the ego is it's like this silly wounded child, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I'm just like lovingly going, oh, yeah, it's not a big deal. You know, when you align back to love, it's not a big deal, because it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And then you have to do the humbling. And this is the thing where we're so triggered by shame and embarrassment, and we defend our ego because we don't want to face our embarrassments or shames. But when we can sit in our own shame and just be like, is there anything really to be ashamed of? My child just went a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
Let's just rein her back in, give her a little hug and say it's okay, and apologize and just return to love.
Yeah, I love that you say that. It really, you know, love is everything. Love could feel painful because you don't want to face the shame. But yet once you get into that place, I love when you say I drop into my heart and I find that place, because it's true. Once you drop in there, you went through that journey to recognize the deep love that you are.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing that you allowed yourself to go through that. And it's a journey, man. It's a bloody journey.
It really is. And I think this is when we can drop into that witness conscious and understand that there's a part of us acting out, that's running around, acting out, showing us depths of ourselves, so we can just bear witness to what we're doing and then be able to return it to love and know that it's okay. It's just it's a play. It's like literally don't take it all so seriously.
Yeah. And I love that you say that, because spirit, like, that's why I think they called this podcast Unfuck Your Mind, right? Because I find like people that are going through the spiritual journey, I felt like I've been doing this for 23 years because I had cancer, and that was one wake up call, but then went through many series of depression and stuff like that, because spirituality wasn't what it is today. It's so different today. Like today, I wish I was going through all that, because I would have been a whole different person and stuff. But it's interesting when we just allow for that to happen and face the shame and recognize a deeper level of ourselves and realize that everyone else goes through this process. People are just embarrassed to speak about all that stuff. But when we as a collective speak about it, still there might be that one or two going, no, I'm not going to still admit this. I don't want to do this.
But like, you're so right. This is what is wrong in the collective. It's our inability to self-forgive. And someone said this expression to me once, and he was like, this is the best tool you'll ever have, and it's instant forgiveness. Yeah. And for yourself. Yeah. And it's the only way we can learn from, because if we keep defending our wrongs because we don't want to drop into our shame, our self-shame, we just keep perpetuating. And this is, like the wars and the really big things that are happening on the planet are just still defending our wrongness and trying to justify, rather than just going, whoa, hands up. Yeah, might have fucked that up. Sorry. I'm going to take a rethink and let's come back to harmony. It's our inability to just change. Yes. And if we can just go, right, I'm changing today. I'm this person today. These are my truths. I stand for love. I stand for spirit, and I stand for harmony. Maybe yesterday I didn't, but that's gone now. It's literally the instant forgiveness, rather than having to justify or defend or rework stories to make yesterday seem like we were better, rather than just going, I wasn't better then, I'm trying, but I am now, and I accept and I love that part of me, and letting it go. It's, what I mean?
Having fun throughout the whole, and this is where I was going, because Spirit always says to me, Zach, you need to bring more fun. Yes, you're colorful in your language, and yes, you're this, and you really don't care about this. And I've had these conversations with Spirit for a while now. And one thing that I noticed, that everyone is so serious in their healing process. Like, yes, it's painful to go through it, but laugh at it and be like, what made me think of doing that? Like, where was I? And I laugh at even the most painful suffering. I've laughed at, and does it kill me in a sense? Yes, but that's just the ego coming off of us. So like having this conversation with you, I feel like we're having so much fun. I wish you guys could see Vanessa, because she's just radiating. She's shining. Like, she's got this smile from ear to ear, and it's just, my heart really like feels so like, and I feel like I'm having a lot of fun talking to you, because it's the truth of who we are. It's our authentic being, right? Yeah. And the more that I think we tap into that and make fun of our own self.
This is so true. And I'm going to admit an embarrassing story now. And it was all about being a medicine woman, and how I did my own spiritual bypass, and then had to take my own big piece of humble pie and step off my high horse. And again, this is another thing, like, I started with an awakening and this whole new world, and then I became a Kambo practitioner, and then I'm holding space for others, and where I'd come from this place of feeling really unworthy and feeling like shit. All of a sudden people were showing love. It wasn't really to me, it was for the medicine and for the space I was holding. But my little ego, or wounded ego, was absorbing this love and like filling my cup from this space. And it was a mistake that I'd made, because I was not filling my own cup and not sourcing my own love from within. And then the ego started to rise. So I'd gone from Vanessa, the party girl, and I write for music press, hey, to I'm a medicine woman. And I was not seeing my shadow and bypassing, and Spirit soon pointed this out, and it was super painful that to then have to take off the new ego coats I'd worn and become nobody, like literally become nobody and start again. And when you're nobody and when you're nothing, it was the most daunting, horrifying and scary place to be, but also the most liberating and beautiful. And that was a hard pill to swallow, if you like, but ultimately great.
Yeah, and that, what, I love that you say that, because we go through this process of not wanting to face our own shadow, our own ego, and just suck everything in that Spirit's creating, but really they are creating it for us too. And this is something I learned when I was doing my meditations and stuff like that. I would create a circle around me, and I wouldn't get out of my circle, because I knew once I got out of the circle, I wasn't fully protected. I was like, I'm not ready to go outside this circle. So people come into my circle and greet me and hug me. They're like, oh, it feels so different in here. I'm like, I'm in my own little world here. But it was so interesting, because eventually they took that away from me, and they said, you are part of the masses. You got to step out. That's how you people. So I totally get where you're coming from in that sense. Yeah. So we're coming close to the end of the podcast. So I want to ask you, you said that you really are into like routine and regimenting. So what is the first 5 things that you do when you wake up in the morning?
I would love to lie and not say that it's checking Facebook and Instagram, but I just can't. I do.
We have a little addiction.
I have a little addiction. I think I'm an addict. What can I say? I do. And I tell myself it's because in case someone's messaged me. But
okay. I tell myself when I feel that way, I'm like, well, am I going to save the world if I respond right away? That's how I have to get myself out of it. So I get it totally.
But I do. Well, I live on my own in a jungle, so I like to see that the rest of the world exists. But then my next thing is I do my affirmations, and I have like a yoga practice which I call Follow Your Bliss, which can be anything from stretching to self-massage to full-on physical PT. And I really like to get into my body. I often have a cacao first thing in the morning. Nice. Connect with the cacao spirits. And I know literally I do. I sit down on my mat in front of my altar, and I just connect to Spirit and like, what do I need today? What do I need to do? And I ask my body, what do you need? And that's my first hour, is self time of just nourishing and doing what I need. And if I'm feeling a bit wiggy, I might do like a gratitudes, go through. I have my mala beads, and I do my gratitudes around my beads, so 108 gratitudes. And that's definitely my routine. And then I sing daily as well, because that's part of what I do. So I have like a mantra chanting and toning practice.
That's so beautiful. And do you have a lot of, because I see so many birds around you, so I was wondering, like, when you're chanting, I'm sure you do this in the jungle, is there a lot of birds that come towards you when you're chanting?
Yes, I've had 2 hummingbirds come in the house over the last week, and this morning actually there was a little songbird on my patio.
Yeah, because I see so many birds around you right now, and I'm like, well, why is there so many birds? But that's one of my animal totems is a bird.
Beautiful.
I love birds, and my whole thing is with birds, like, be free like a bird. So when I'm always in my head, I'll be like, be free like a bird. Don't trust the branch, but trust yourself. Like, literally, the bird talks to me all the time. So
Oh,
birds sing, and that's why I was wondering, being in the jungle, like, I could just
yeah. I have toucans. There's two toucans now actually sat on the tree over here, which is beautiful. And,
interesting how I felt that
yeah.
coming through. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So
And
what?
also,
Which?
oh, sorry.
Sorry, go on. No, go on.
I was just gonna say, because we've been talking about addiction, and I just really wanted to make a point about having a chanting practice and mantra singing, how that really helps with addiction, because it's all about the brainwave patterns. And we live in a society where we're very in high beta brainwave with the technology and everything else. So when we chant, and it's the same with medicine drumming, it's bringing the brainwave down into low beta theta wave patterns, and this is where the healing happens. It's where the calmness comes, and it's matching the rhythm of the heart to the rhythm of the mind brain waves, and can really help move through. So it's why for people with the addictive nature, a chanting practice and mantra singing is such a powerful tool for helping with a coping mechanism, and helping to really change the brain waves and to get into a more harmonious way with self. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, well, thank you for that, because that was beautiful. So what does spirituality mean to you now?
Wow, I guess it's a big question. So I see myself as divine lights incarnate in a human body, and I'm in service to love. I stand for love. I am love. Everything I do is about promoting love, being love, and everything I want to offer. And for me, that is spirituality, is love. Like the consciousness, the vibration, and everything it's there. It's how we create heaven on earth, is by being as aligned to love and our true self as we can. And I also think, our higher self is our inner child, because it's the pure, perfect wonderment part of ourselves. And if we can open more to that, then the love can flow freer. So it's not about finding anything. It's just all about opening and surrendering deeper into that vulnerability and the beauty and purity of love.
Oh my God, that was just so beautiful. Like, you put me in a transient state saying that. It feels so good. I was like, woo! I can feel
Feeling
this right
love.
now. Like, oh, yeah, it's so true. Spirituality is definitely love and oneness. Ooh, that felt so good. So what is one piece of advice you'd give someone that's going through depression or suicidal thoughts or addiction?
Number one, hang in there. This is just a catalyst for your change. So see the signs, open to the signs, and go within, search within for your truth. And if you don't know your truth, start connecting to spirit and opening to be guided. And the answer is, like, love, like I just said, is the reference point. Maybe start asking those questions. How can I be more aligned to love? What do I need to let go of to become more love? How can I forgive myself? And be present in the present moment, because I think depression is when we're living in the past or in a fake future that we've imagined. It's not really being present, because when everything happens, like, the grace is in presence. So it's difficult because everyone's going through their own personal darkness at that time, but there's also energy is just energy, and there is no good and bad. And so I just want to point out that sometimes that darkness, that depression, that void is just as gloriously beautiful as the fullness of bliss. So we can often get allured into this despair, and it can actually feel like a very comfortable, wonderful, cozy blanket of that pain of suffering. So don't be fooled into this sorrowful trap, because it's literally, we just like to feel. We are beings that like to feel, and sometimes we just avoid the stillness or the neutral zone. So if we can't move towards bliss, we move towards void, and they're just states of being, and we're always in constant motion, and everything moves, like nothing's permanent. So even the void's not permanent, the bliss isn't permanent, we're always moving. And so that's why just hang in and let your state move into something else, and realize you are actually controlling it and creating your reality of powerful beings. So don't let your motherboard, the brain, run the show. Get control of that monkey, and start doing some work to be leading your own ship, sailing your own ship.
I love that. I don't even want to ask you another question, because that was a perfect way to end the show, because it's so true. I love everything that you said there. It felt so right. And I know it felt right to you too. And it definitely will feel right to those that are listening and putting that into practice. So Vanessa, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It was such a pleasure to have you out here. Just to see your smiling face. I know that people are not going to see this because it's all audio, but if you want to reach Vanessa, you could find all her social handles in the show notes just below. And again, thank you so much for your love and your grace and your presence and your laughter and all this, because what a great way to start my day. I just feel so blissful. There's a reason why God told me to do these podcasts, because my body just radiates, and I go through shivers every time I finish an interview. So this is so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure, and so wonderful to see you again and connect. And I wish you so many blessings and love for your show, and I really hope it touches the hearts of many people. Thank you, and bless you. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, everyone, for listening to Unfuck Your Mind. Please catch us again on our next episode. Bye for now.